I don't think we have ever felt quite so defeated. That night, Jeremy and I were exhausted and he was carrying his large suitcase around Wichita while we're trying to, Wichita, Kansas, as we're trying to figure out where we're going to sleep that night. Eventually, we ended up sleeping on a bench in, what do you call that?
A square.
In a square. And the truth is, the worst part, it wasn't even about the bench. The worst part for me was that I believe God had told us something. And as the night got worse, I started to wonder if I could trust Him.
So the day before, Packy and Samantha, the pastors of the church on the streets, had put us up at the Wyndham. It was such a blessing. And we'd also gotten to serve with Church on the Streets that day, praying with people, helping with the lunch and clothes. Then after church, the pastor, Packy, asked, "So where do you want to go? Has God told you anything?" We did not have an answer. We just had shock and fear instead. And Packy started taking us toward the shelter and warning us about the dangers there. This, yeah. But I knew as soon as he started talking about that, I wasn't going to put Shanielle in that situation. So we stopped to pray. In the middle of all that stress, trying to decide what to carry and what to leave behind and what to do next, Shanielle felt God show her the bus stop at the Quick Trip that Roger had taken us to the day before.
Yeah, God told me, let Pacu drop you there. Like, then He said to me, haven't you always, you guys have wanted to go to the museum for a bit. Like, go to the museum, have fun. It's free on Sundays. And He then specifically said, you're not supposed to be on the streets tonight. So we went to the museum, we had a blast. And then we met up with Oscar, someone that God had connected us with, the minister he's all the way from El Salvador. And we got to pray with him. And afterwards, I remember after we prayed, the Lord said to me, it is finished. And I felt a peace about, saying goodbye to Oscar. And then I felt the Lord say, go back to the bus stop I showed you. And we started to head that way, but we took our time. So we stopped at a hotel to rest on the AC. We stopped at a bus stop to hang out a little, another bus stop to hang out a little bit to pray. And then by the time we got to the bus stop that the Lord had shown me, it was about 9.
And that was on me.
Right? And probably 2 hours later, I was breaking down. I was panicking, playing every worst case scenario in my head. And the truth is, I had never felt so unseen or excluded before. Right? We had never felt so unseen and excluded before. It seemed like everybody had their own thing going on. There was in their bubble. People didn't want to meet your eyes.
The bubble.
And we just weren't in that bubble. And after 11 o'clock, I gave up waiting at that bus stop. It wasn't that I was trying to disobey God, because there were so many things I obeyed Him around. I knew I had to stand on. But for me, this was like a hard no. I just couldn't do it anymore. I wanted to be indoors.
And she succeeded in one other area that I'm going to mention, because I was having trouble wondering whether I could hear God, and she was having trouble trusting God, even though she could feel like she heard God. She got my phone at one point. God told me, do not hold your phone back from her. But she wanted to look at an Airbnb. And after I handed her the phone, I just said, baby, God said, don't spend that money on that. And she reluctantly and obediently to God handed the phone back without getting an Airbnb. So we weren't totally disobedient. There was 2 things that we disobeyed on, and everything else we were obedient on, but this was enough to really throw our brains out of whack. So we went looking. We tried to find somewhere safe. We looked for a police station that wasn't there. It was a sushi place instead, just mislabeled on Google Maps. We got kicked out of the hospital. At 2 a.m, a security guard named Will at a gas station bought us a couple of gas station burgers. So kind. A homeless man we had met earlier that day and prayed with at the church invited us to sleep under a bridge with a group of those folks. Instead, we found a bench back where the fake police station was, and that's where we finally slept. So that night wrecked us. Shanielle was questioning whether she could trust God. I was questioning whether I could hear God. It was a lot. The next morning, when we woke up, as soon as I woke up, I I was told two names. So we got offers of places to stay. Money came in from three different people who felt God tell them to give. Later, we realized we hadn't fully obeyed. We delayed getting to the bus stop, and then we left early. But the night changed the way that we see homeless people and that bubble.
And people in general,
Yeah.
like it really did, right? And as people called to be a place of rest for others, especially people who feel unseen, we really got a deeper understanding of where that sense of not having community or feeling unseen comes from.
Yeah, we experience so much kindness from homeless people and from just, people who didn't have it all together. That's been a big theme for us, showing us how we can be kind when we don't have it all together, how we can be useful, helpful instruments of God's will when we don't have it anywhere close to being all together.
Yeah.
And God showed us that we're supposed to not take anyone up on places to stay. We're supposed to stay in Wichita for a while longer. And he was right. We still had work to finish in Wichita.
So stick around for the next video and we tell you about that. Hasta la vista, baby.